Hey guys, welcome to Kachi Bachi. I am Jordan and this is Enoch, and we are here today to talk to you about Baby Lock's new release of their Chorus. So this machine has some really great features. It's absolutely geared towards quilters, so if you're not interested in quilting at all, there's probably better machines out there that would do what you want at a lesser cost or that are more tailored to what you need. This one has some really neat features. Whether or not I think it's for everyone or every quilter is yet to be determined, or it's probably on a case-by-case basis. So this is Baby Lock's like elite sewing only machine. So it's the top of the line of only sewing, meaning no embroidery. And with that, you get all of their like top of the line features, which would be a very large LCD screen. So it's got a massive screen that's good for like helping you to select things, and you can see your stitches blown up and all of those sorts of things. It has their needle threader, which as a general rule, you're not going to get a better needle threader than what Baby Lock or Brother has to offer on this level. Like, everybody else just can't compete. It nails it 99% of the time. Anytime it doesn't work, it's because of user error. And so you push a button and it threads your needle. I mean, you kind of can't beat that. So that is a really great feature that comes with their top of line machines. This isn't necessarily groundbreaking and new per se. It's an update of their Crescendo, which has been around for quite a few years, and it's a great machine. It really is. They're hefty. It's not something you're going to necessarily want to haul because they're like 30 something pounds.
Yeah, they're pretty.
They're pretty up there. Let's see. 33.9 pounds. Told ya. This machine has 11 inches of throat space, which is what makes it geared towards quilters, so you can roll up and fit rather large quilts in that quilting area. It comes with an extension table. It comes with all sorts of different feet, like your 1/4 inch foot, your free motion foot, like 3 different free motion feet actually. It does come with their digital walking foot, and now what makes it new, or what they've upgraded, is it is a compact digital walking foot. And it is unique to Baby Lock and Brother, and it's that you plug it in at the back, you can go forward and back, whereas with most walking feet, you can only go forward, or it has more limited stitching that only moves forward, so it can do some like slight back, but it's not going to engage the walking foot for that sort of stuff. So it allows you to use it with more decorative stitches, and this walking foot is smaller. The smaller, it doesn't make that much of a difference because it's not that much smaller. I would find that the walking foot would catch on my quilt sometimes when you have a big quilt and you've got it all rolled under there. I mean, it was a hefty, like, box. And this is thinner, but it's not like a non-existent walking foot. It's still going to be a big enough walking foot. And you can use it with more decorative stitches, which is great. One of the things this machine does have that is super sweet is they have massive decorative stitches. So if you're I'm sorry. Oh, beautiful. Okay. Sorry, I got distracted by my adorable 2-year-old coloring her face. The massive decorative stitches that it has can be really great on. Oh, I personally probably wouldn't do much more than like baby quilts with them because decorative stitches are time commitments, and that just means that it's going to take that much longer to quilt that quilt if you're using a decorative stitch to do it. You could totally do it on all the way up to king size. It's just when you're doing decorative stitches, they don't stitch as fast. And so you're literally just sitting there like, come on, I'm waiting. It's like sitting at a red light all day long, or sitting in heavy traffic all day long when you know that that lane is made to move, because that machine stitches at 10,000, or not 10,000, 1,050 stitches per minute, which is a great speed, but you only get that speed when you're going straight and doing straight stitching, not on the decorative stitches, which that's to be expected. That's across the board with any machine. This machine does have some of the absolute largest decorative stitches available, and you get really cute quilts using them, for sure. You could even just use them in your sashing, or just use it in an inner border, or just use it in an outer border, and you don't have to commit to doing a whole quilt with them, and so that can be really handy too. Yeah, we like handy things. So this machine, you're getting like 200 extra stitches from the previous machine. The other thing that this has that I do think is a pretty neat feature is going to be diagonal and lateral stitching. And that's not going to be something you'll use every single day, but the machine can literally stitch on a diagonal in either direction and horizontally either direction. And while that may not seem like it's all that revolutionary, if you're more of a seamstress, it probably isn't. Um, but for quilting, if you do a lot of straight line quilting, and if you're doing a lot of like boxes or like you're doing very linear, smaller quilting that's closer together, it's instead of having to stitch down a box, pivot, stitch down a box, pivot, stitch down a box, pivot to get through your square, you are stitching down and then hitting a button and stitching to the right. And so you're not having to move the whole bulk of your quilt. You're literally just letting the machine stitch laterally in your box shape or in your diagonals, whatever it may be. Diagonals are a little bit more challenging to keep lined up, and so you can end up with wonky lines, and that sucks. So I would stick to more the horizontal, vertical, like in back, reverse, whatever, to get those. But it can be something that can be really, really useful if that's the sort of quilting that you do. That being said, this machine's price point, I'm guessing, the Crescendo is typically around $6,000. On sale, you'd find it sometimes around $5,000, depending on what packages they may or may not have with it. So my guess is this machine is going to be somewhere close to that. I don't have hard and fast pricing on it. As soon as we do, that will be in a link below. So most people, I would venture to say, will have a just as good or potentially even more enjoyable quilting experience stitching on a Janome 6700, a Janome 6650, or the Janome M7. Some Berninas, but typically price range, you're going to be spending more to get a similar kind of experience. Personally, I've had a very hard time, hard and fast, recommending this machine because for that price point, you're getting things that a lot of quilters aren't super excited about. It's like extra stitches, an extra 200 stitches. Who gives a rip? 99% of the time. There are some things where it's like, oh my gosh, I think that's super cute, and you like the idea of it, but the reality is it's not necessarily justifiable to spend $2,000 on something that you're going to use very nominally. Whereas the 6700 and M7 have a big throat space, cast iron, they're made to charge through your quilts. They have an amazing walking foot system that I adore, and they're like half the cost. And so, that being the case, it's really hard to say this is going to be like an amazing machine that every quilter is going to want, because I think there are definitely other machines that far more quilters will want. There are some people that just want the top of the line and they want that like Cadillac experience where it's like I'm sitting in the back seat and somebody else is driving me, and like I want that smooth ride. I want the never miss needle threader. I want the guide beam that I'm going to see where my stitches are going. Like those things can be really, really nice. And it's part of that overall experience, but I don't think it changes the functionality, or that the functionality is that far superior to justify that price for the majority of quilters. So if that's you, then absolutely go take a look at this machine, stitch on it, get the sound, get the feel for it, see if you like that aspect of it. But I would also say go stitch on an M7, because the M7 is money. It's so nice. And both of them, one of the things that I really like about like these higher end machines is you get separate bobbin winder motors, so you can like never run out of bobbin because you have your bobbin winding and you can continue sewing, and then you just swap them out. So they have that, super functional to me. They have like needle threader, or not needle threader errors. They have low bobbin sensors essentially. They can get dusty and linty over time, especially if you're using cotton threads with your cotton fabrics, and so those can sometimes be faulty, but if you keep your machine clean, then 9 times out of 10, it's nice to have a warning when you're going to run out of thread. Personally, I like to run my thread to the very, very end, and those warn you just before, and you have to sit there and like, I don't know, you end up wasting thread or wasting time hitting your start button because it's going to stop when it thinks it's low on thread. And I like to keep going and use up all my thread. This machine pretty much comes with most everything that you would want. I can't think of a ton of add-ons that you'd want. They have an option for an additional presser foot, which can be really neat. So you can program it to raise your presser foot, drop your needle, cut your thread when you hit that. And you can also program your traditional presser foot to do any of those things. So those are things that are conveniences and they're just nice. They are not necessary. And that's a personal opinion and a personal choice as to whether or not it's something that you want. I very much like this machine. I think it quilts beautifully. I think it free motions beautifully. I love the quilting space that you get with it. I don't love their walking foot. Yeah. Let's talk about this walking foot for a minute. It quilts very nicely. It is a rubber belt in a system that maybe it may not.
It may not be rubber, but it's a grippy material, like rubber. I think it's some sort of rubber. Maybe silicone rubber. Who knows? It doesn't matter.
But it's grippy and it rolls forward. So you're actually getting a very good forward pull and forward momentum on the top of your quilt, just as you are with the feed dogs on the underneath side. And so it does give a very, very good forward motion. However, when it comes to putting on binding, that's where I find that foot fails me some, because it's a flat rubber belt instead of a walking foot that has one foot on my quilt and one foot on my binding. That rubber belt ends up pulling my binding more than my quilt, and so I end up sometimes having a little bit of pull on the binding that makes it look like I didn't do a great job putting my binding on. So a traditional or some of the other more preferable walking feet, in my estimation, have a walking foot that is actually connected to the machine and still engages with a motor of the machine, or at least the take-up lever, and it's going to have 2 feet on the top, and then you have your feed dogs on the bottom, so you're still getting grip from both top and bottom, but you have 1 foot that rides on the quilt and 1 foot that rides on your binding, and so you get a much more even feed on those, which is why they call them even feet as well. So that's something you can get, one of those like $50 ones that attach to this machine and it attaches to the take-up lever. It definitely is more functional for binding than the dual feed foot, but it's still not as preferable as those that actually engage in the back of the machine, kind of like the FAFs and Genomes do. So personal preference there, absolutely. If you're a hand binder, that's not going to make any difference to you. So you would potentially choose the chorus all the way. I mean, it's personal preference. Once more, that's just my personal experience after 10 years of sewing on a Genome and about 5 years sewing on baby locks. Absolutely go to a store, experience both for yourself, see what you like, and depending on how you quilt and what kind of quilting you're doing, you can make a slightly more informed decision then. So I hope that you enjoyed this video. I hope you enjoy the sounds of smacking babies, because that's what you're getting right now. And if you like this and want to see more things like this, absolutely smash the like button, subscribe to this channel, and we will bring back more info as soon as we can.
Oh, so if you want to check out this machine and compare it to others and potentially buy it online, we have some affiliate links down below that help us out. So check those out. But if you can't, especially on this level, try to go to a local sewing machine store and actually sew it out and support local shops. But if you don't have a local shop, support us.
Yeah.
Goodbye.